Walters is hosting the ultimate Nats watch party this Saturday night at 6 o'clock while the team is in Philadelphia. A pair of racing presidents will be on hand for photo ops from 6 to 7. First place in the raffle wins a signed C.J. Abrams jersey and 4 Champions Club tickets.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Parker could really use one into the ground right at somebody, but a swing and a drive deep left field. This one is gone. Goodbye. First pitch, elevated fastball, belt high and boom, all over it. Blasts it out of here for his 13th home run. A 3-run shot. It gives him 84 runs batted in. And the Phillies with the early 3-0 first inning lead.
The set to 2-1. Swinging a line drive hook to left down the line. It's going to be in there and it's going to go to the fence. Rojas scores. Schwarber jogs in to score. And Trey Turner into second with a 2-run double. Phillies 7 and the Nationals nothing.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Friday, August 16th. 2024, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. It's funny how baseball works. We spent a good bit of the last installment of the podcast discussing the stunning announcement from Nationals manager Davey Martinez on Wednesday afternoon that his entire coaching staff will return for the 2025 season. Of course, included among the returning coaches is hitting coach Darnell Coles, who, fair or not, has drawn the ire of many Nats fans for the team's lack of home runs. The Nats hired Coles as their hitting coach in October 2021. The man who he succeeded as Nats hitting coach is Kevin Long. He was hired as the Philadelphia Phillies hitting coach in October 2021. And wouldn't you know it, the Nats on Thursday evening got pounded by Kevin Long's Phillies, a 13-3 loss at the National League East leading Phillies in Game 1 of a 4-game series. The Nats for this regular season fall to 55-67. The Phillies for this regular season now 71-50. That is the best record in the National League. The Phillies starting first baseman and number 8 batter for this game, Weston Wilson. He hit for the cycle. The Nats starting pitcher for this game, Mitchell Parker. He got rocked. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by Table to Mat, which you can count on for all of your nutrition and personal training needs. Table to Mat offers virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. You can email Table to Mat directly through its website at tabletomat.com. You can call Table to Mat 240-388-2206. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com. Mark, the truth is, the Nats have not gotten blown out all that often this season, have lost a good bit this season, as I just noted with the record, but have not lost like this a lot this season. So, at least to me, this game on Thursday evening actually stood out as rather unique. We're not used to seeing this all that often. So many Nats games this season have been close. This game on Thursday evening, quite clearly, was not close.
No, not at all. And while you're right, they have played a lot of teams tough. They are still not anywhere close to being in the same class as the Phillies. And we've seen this over several years now. The head-to-head record is pretty dramatically tilted into Philadelphia's favor. And I believe you asked me the other night, is there a chance the Nats are going to catch the Phillies at a good time? And I said, well, maybe. But if I'm the Phillies, who I think had lost 18 of 26, they might be looking at this weekend as their best opportunity to get healthy again and get back on track. And if the first game of this 4-game series is a sign of things to come. Yikes, look out. That is a team that is significantly better than the Nationals at this moment. We will see if that gap closes up somewhat over the next year or so. But for right now, they did not look like they belonged on the same field. I'm sorry to say, at least in this particular game, the Phillies completely ate up Mitchell Parker, and Zach Wheeler, I think to no one's surprise, pretty much ate up the Nationals lineup.
Yeah, and we also had some more defensive issues for the Nats. We'll get to those later in the show. But Mitchell Parker, he in this game had what you call a blow-up start. He allowed 9 runs in 3 innings. He gave up 10 hits, which were 2 home runs, a triple, a double, and 6 singles. He issued 2 walks. He did record 6 strikeouts. He did throw a lot of strikes, 72 pitches, 48 strikes, 24 balls. But Parker, in the bottom of the first, allowed 4 runs, including giving up back-to-back 1-out homers, a 1-out 3-run homer by Alec Boehm to left field for a 3-0 Phillies lead, and then a 1-out solo homer by Nick Castellanos to left field for a 4-0 Phillies lead. Parker, in the bottom of the fourth, charged with 5 runs. He faced 5 batters. He gave up 5 hits. So here's what is especially interesting to me about Mitchell Parker right now. He actually had pitched well in each of his 3 previous starts, but he on Thursday evening allowed at least 5 earned runs for the 4th time in 8 starts. If you look at Parker's last 8 starts, he has allowed at least 5 earned runs 4 times. He has allowed 2 earned runs or less the other 4 times. There has developed this extreme volatility with Mitchell Parker to where he's either really good or he's quite bad. And obviously on Thursday evening, he was quite bad.
Yeah, and very often those bad starts seem to have a very bad and long first inning. Remember the game in Milwaukee, of course, where he didn't even get out of the first inning. I feel like there's been some early trouble for him. Now, the weird thing about this one to me, he gives up the 2 homers back-to-back in the first. He's down 4-0, and you're thinking, oh boy, here we go. His second and third innings, I thought, were really good. I mean, he struck out the side in one of them and relatively efficient getting through it and facing some of their big hitters in the process. And you're thinking, okay, he might salvage this thing into something. And then the 4th inning completely got away from him, not helped by his defense. That was certainly a part of it, but he couldn't even get an out in the inning before he gets pulled. And you end up 9 runs and 10 hits allowed in 3+ innings. All of a sudden, this guy's ERA is at 4.44. That's way up from where it was earlier in the year. And as with all these young starters, this is what you've got to learn. And if you really want to be successful in this league, it's one thing to be good when you're on. It's another to figure out how to just be okay when you're off. And right now, when he's off, he hasn't been okay. He's been bad. That's going to be this critical next step for him to try to figure out.
Yeah, he and DJ Hers have essentially switched roles. Parker had been captain consistency. Hers had been the king of volatility. And now lately, Hers has been very consistent and Parker has become rather volatile. Yet, it's hard to declare anything with certainty right now in terms of ultimately, how are we going to look back upon Mitchell Parker's season? It still has been much more good than bad. He's been very much a pleasant surprise for this team. But to your point about the ERA, that thing is now at 4.44, and we still have a decent chunk of the season to go. So there's no telling where that thing might wind up. You would hate for this season to end up to where the numbers are ugly. Certainly doesn't have to end up that way. But yeah, like with Parker, with Mackenzie Gore, with DJ Hers, even with Jake Irvin, there's enough season left, and there have been enough up and downs with all these guys to where we're not sure exactly how this thing is going to play out in terms of ultimately what the epitaphs on these guys' seasons are.
It's why I keep saying these last 6-7 weeks are really important for a lot of guys. This is where you find out what kind of season did they really have? Have they been able to make adjustments? Have they been able to get through the physical grind of a full big league season, especially for Parker and Hers, who are doing this for the first time? It's critical for that. You can't just sit back and say, well, hey, you know what? They developed some pitching this year. Good for them. Well, no, it's 162 games. And at the end of it, you look at what they all did and decide, okay, who looks like he's a part of this? Who looks like he still needs some work? Who looks like maybe they're not actually cut out for this? So whatever the team's record is, however any of these guys did individually in the first half of the season, these final 6 weeks, I think, are critical for a bunch of them. There are very few proven players at this point on the team. There are guys who've shown a lot and even exceeded expectations, but there are very few that you can say with any certainty you know what they are as big league players and pitchers. And pretty much all these young pitchers still have a lot left to prove. And I do think the remainder of the season is going to tell us a lot and tell the organization a lot about how they truly fit in as they look ahead to next year and beyond.
Yeah, Nats have 40 games left in the regular season, so still about a quarter of the regular season is left. The season is not done. There is plenty of season left, and there are still many ways in which this season could go. The Nats bullpen in this 13-3 loss at the Phillies on Thursday evening. Not good. 3 Nats relievers officially combined to allow 4 runs, 3 earned in 5 innings. Now, Eduardo Salazar was pretty good. He officially tossed 2 scoreless innings, but Tanner Rainey, 2 runs, 1 earned in 1 2/3 innings. Orlando Revolta, 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. Rainey actually tossed a perfect bottom of the 6th, but he and Revolta then combined to allow 4 runs over the 7th and 8th innings.
Swing for the fences this summer and hire Table to Mat for all your nutrition and personal training needs. Being healthy and having fun do not have to be mutually exclusive. Table to Mat specializes in making healthy lifestyles enjoyable and sustainable. Are you experiencing headaches, stomach discomfort, or want to lose weight? Find out how your food choices and exercise impact how you feel physically and mentally. We offer virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. With over a decade working in our fields, we bring experience and passion to help you be the best version of yourself. You can email us directly through our website at tabletomat.com or call us at 240-388-2206. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com.
Walters is hosting the Ultimate Nats Watch Party this Saturday night at 6 o'clock while the team is in Philadelphia. An exclusive raffle will be held. Prizes include a pair of tickets and $25 gift cards to the concession stand.
Tim Shover is here to tell you about Game Time. Shows this September at the Anthem in D.C. include Kings of Leon, Ringo Starr, and Weezer. If you're interested in finding tickets to any of these shows, make sure to check out the Game Time app. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you the complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Here's the pitch. Swinging a line drive center field. Young in a couple of steps. Now back, reaches, drops the ball. Oh my goodness. Schwarber scores. Turner to third. Harper into second. Of all things, Jacob Young misses the ball. It's off his glove. He dropped it. And the Phillies score again. It's 11-3.
The Nats in this game, 3 errors. Shortstop C.J. Abrams committed a throwing error in the Phillies' 5-run fourth. Third baseman Jose Tena, who was back, he returned from a 2-game absence caused by his right thumb ailment. He committed a one-out fielding error in that bottom of the fourth. And then there was Jacob Young, who had quite the game defensively. So Jacob Young in this game as the Nats starting center fielder and number 9 batter, 1 for 4 with a single. He, in the bottom of the 6th, made an outstanding catch.
Wood and Young tracking back to the warning track. Young leaps at the wall. He makes an amazing catch. Crashes into the fence and holds on.
And Young, as he came down on the warning track, did a reverse somersault for good measure. But Young in the Phillies' 2-run seventh had this brutal miscatch error, a 2-out line drive off the bat of Bryce Harper, a very catchable ball, and Young just basically whiffed on the catch. A run came in to score to put the Phillies up 11-3. Baseball is so odd. Young makes this sensational catch in the bottom of the sixth, and then in the bottom of the seventh makes an error that you would think a bad fielder would make, not a guy like Jacob Young.
And I think what was striking about that one was the misread off the bat. He took a step in and got caught going back now on it. And even so, he's there, and all he has to do is just squeeze the ball in his glove. But it was like that little misstep at the start threw him off completely. The best thing he's had going for him this year has been his reaction to the bat off the ball in anticipating where it's going and getting a great jump on it. And that's what he did on the ball to the wall in left center. He didn't read it correctly on the other one over his head. Now, one bad play. Thankfully, it really wasn't the difference in this game. So I don't want to make too big a deal out of that, given how great he has been otherwise. It was surprising and disappointing to see that happen. It was a very strange game defensively. As you said, the 3 errors, and there were at least a couple other plays I can think of that weren't errors, but just plays that weren't made. The little bloop in front of Luis Garcia that he didn't get to and then couldn't even make a throw because Andres Chaparro wasn't covering first base. That's how Weston Wilson got the cycle. That was his single on the cycle. And at the time, nobody realized how important that was going to be. But, you know, it was as cheap a hit as you're going to get. But then you also had a tremendous play by Jacob Young. And I thought a tremendous play by James Wood, fielding the drive off the wall and firing into second base to get the batter. And so there were some good things there, but there was some really sloppy stuff. You have C.J. Abrams throwing a ball to third base that never should have been thrown in the first place and throwing it away. It felt like some of these guys, the younger guys in particular, got a little spooked by the lights in Philly. You have a sellout crowd. The Phillies jump out to an early lead, and maybe some of these guys just weren't quite there or weren't ready for it or whatever you want to call it. It did feel like some of them were not quite ready for prime time in this game.
So with Jacob Young, first of all, there was a really good article that was recently written by Mike Petriello of MLB.com. Mike Petriello is a high-level advanced statistical analysis guy in MLB. He wrote a really good piece for MLB.com, came out on August 14th. Headline is Outfield Defense, the Best It's Ever Been. And among those highlighted in the piece, Jacob Young. But with Jacob Young's defensive season vis-a-vis the Nats overall as a team defensively this season. So if you go by StatCast outs above average, Jacob Young for this regular season as of games through Wednesday, number 1 among all players in the majors. So all positions, all players in StatCast outs above average plus 18. The Nats for this regular season as of games through Wednesday tied for just 27th out of 30 major league teams in StatCast outs above average at minus 23. So even with the number 1 overall player in the sport in outs above average, the Nats ranked tied for 27th out of 30 major league teams. If you take out Young's plus 18, you're looking at the Nats being minus 41 in outs above average as a team this season. That's not just bad defense. That is wretched defense. That is atrocious defense. And that really does stand out. Like, Jacob Young is having an awesome defensive season. Certainly seems primed to do something that very few Nats players have done, and that is win a Gold Glove award. But beyond him, you know, we've talked about C.J. Abrams. His defensive metrics are very mixed. So maybe you could say he's better defensively than outs above average would say. But man, the overall defensive profile of this team is really bad.
Well, and what I was going to say is there's a couple of other individuals having a nice season. I think Luis Garcia qualifies for that. Joey Gallo, when he was healthy, it's been a while now, but he was. But their pitching staff across the board has terrible numbers. Their catchers, as we know, have struggled, although Ruiz has been better recently. He's still below average, but he's not quite as bad as he was before. And, you know, the guys who have been bad have been really bad, and it's dragged them all down as a team. And this is something that does have to improve significantly. We've talked about the pitching and where they've improved, where they haven't. We've talked a lot about offensively, where they've improved, where they haven't. We haven't talked a lot about how does this team get better defensively? If you're really going to be a good contending team in the future, you don't have to be the best defensive team in the league, but you got to be at least league average, I think. And where is that improvement going to come from? Now, it's been great to see Garcia get better. You want to see Abrams get better at this. The catchers, of course, the pitchers, as I said, it's kind of bizarre. They're like among the worst position group in the league in terms of defense. And that's something that's got to get better. And that includes fielding comebackers, throwing the ball away, holding runners on, all those kinds of things. So that's got to get better. James Wood, you hope improves with some more experience. We know he has the ability to do some things, but he still doesn't look 100% comfortable out there. Where else is the improvement going to come from? It's got to come from somewhere, because it's going to be hard. Even if you score runs, you got a better lineup, you got a better pitching staff, you still ultimately need to have at least an average defense, I think, to be a winning team in the end.
Yeah, especially if you have starting pitchers who don't generate strikeouts all that much, and like we like a lot of things about Irvin and Parker, but they're not necessarily high strikeout guys. Josiah Gray, not necessarily a high strikeout guy. How wild is it, by the way, that only 2 Nats players have won Gold Glove awards? Ryan Zimmerman in 2009, Adam LaRoche in 2012. That's it. No other Nationals player has won a Gold Glove award.
They've had a few other finalists. Robles, I think Juan Soto one year was actually a finalist, even though most agreed he had no chance at it. But no, you're right. I mean, some of that was, Anthony Rendon deserved at least 1, if not 2, but he was playing in a league with Nolan Arenado for years, and that was going to be tough for him. Zim probably deserved more than 1. LaRoche was great at first base, and Robles had a great season at one point. But yeah, I mean, that is kind of emblematic of what they've been over the long haul. I don't know that there's a lot of teams in Nationals history that you said to yourself, boy, that was a great defensive team. There have been some great teams in Nationals history. How many teams would you say, oh yeah, I remember that team because their defense was so good? A couple individuals, yes, but not team-wide.
Hey, Nats Chat, want to tell you about Mint Mobile's premium wireless package starting at $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/natschat. That's mintmobile.com/natschat. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/natschat. $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigs on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Hey guys, Al Galdi here for Window Nation. The 2024 MLB trade deadline may have passed, but that doesn't mean that there isn't still a great deal to be had. Window Nation, for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast, is offering a sensational deal. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years, plus you get an additional $250 credit. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation windows are outstanding. Window Nation is the true window expert. Window Nation's professional installation teams have over 10 years of experience. Every Window Nation window undergoes a 50-point inspection before leaving the Window Nation factory. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. Take advantage of this offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years, plus an additional $250 credit. 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent ya.
For those interested in learning a new language, whether it be Spanish, French, or something else, check out Babbel. Babbel's 10-minute lessons are quick and handcrafted by over 200 language experts, ready to get you talking about your new language in just 3 weeks, because talking is the key to really knowing any language. Designed by real people for having real conversations, Babbel gets you talking. With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee, so no pressure. Here's a special limited-time deal for our listeners right now. Get up to 60%, that's 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for Nats Chat listeners at babbel.com/natschat. Get up to 60% off babbel.com/natschat. Spelled BABBEL.com/natschat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
2-0 pitch, swing and a high drive to deep left, headed back towards his own mug on the scoreboard, and gone. Brady House with his second homer of the game, and the Red Wings immediately reclaim the lead at 3-2.
Here's your minor league report for the games played on Thursday. In AAA, Brady House, a pair of homers while playing third for Rochester. Dylan Cruz played center field 0 for 2 out of the leadoff spot. And this came out after we taped. Per the Washington Post, Joe La Sorsa is getting called up to Washington. Corresponding move, TBA. Now back to the show.
The 1-2, swinging a high drive, right field, deep it goes. Drifting back, Castellanos to the warning track, looking up, and Ruiz has another one. It's a 2-homer game for Keibert Ruiz. Tucks that one in down the right field line, about 4 rows in. That's his 11th homer of the year, his second tonight. It's now 9-3 Philadelphia.
Well, there was a bright spot for the Nats in this 13-3 loss at the Phillies on Thursday evening, and the bright spot was Keibert Ruiz. The Nats were not particularly good offensively in this game, just 3 runs, 8 hits, which were 2 home runs, a double, and 5 singles, no walks, 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. The Phillies starting pitcher, Zach Wheeler, 2 runs, 1 earned in 6 innings, 6 strikeouts versus no walks. But the Nats' 2 homers came from one man, Keibert Ruiz. He is the Nats starting catcher and number 6 batter, 2 for 4 with 2 one-out solo homers on 1-2 pitches. Keibert in the Nats' 1-run 5th had a 1-out solo homer to right center field on a 1-2 pitch to cut the Nats deficit to 9-1, and Keibert in the Nats' 1-run 7th had a 1-out solo homer to right field on a 1-2 pitch to cut the Nats deficit to 9-3. We know the deal with Keibert Ruiz this season. It has not been a good season, but he is having a very good month of August. Your Keibert Ruiz slash line for this month of August, batting average of .295, on base percentage of .340, slugging percentage of .545. We've talked about the importance of the final 2 months of this regular season for Keibert Ruiz, and what are the Nats going to be doing? What should they be doing at the catcher position moving forward? Does Keibert Ruiz finally truly stake a claim to being worthy of being the Nats' number 1 catcher moving forward? Maybe, just maybe, we're starting to see some of that here. He's having a good month.
Yeah, and it even goes a little further back than that. End of June, he had bottomed out there with a 197 batting average, 291 slugging, and 529 OPS on June 28th. And since then, it's been 35 games. He has raised his batting average from 197 to 227. So that's 30 points. And he's raised his OPS from an abysmal 529 to a still bad, but much more respectable 623. So that's almost 100 points on his OPS over the course of 35 games. So, month and a half basically for him. He's not all the way back. He's got to show this over a longer period of time. He's still got to avoid those at bats that he just feels like he gives away, swinging at a first pitch breaking ball out of the zone and popping up or grounding out. But there has been better stuff. The problem is it was so bad for 3 months that he dug himself into the kind of hole that it takes a phenomenal 3 months to get out of. And it may not matter how well he does the rest of the season. The season totals are probably just not going to look good regardless. And that's why you do have to maybe break it down into parts. Better, that's been great to see. You really need to see more of this from him. And I agree, as we've said, one of the most important players, I think, on the team in terms of how they do the rest of the way that will really tell us, is he the number 1 guy, or do they need to be thinking about something else there as they move forward?
Yeah, so bad was Keibert Ruiz's start to this season that he, for this regular season, as of games through Wednesday, had a wins above replacement, a WAR per Baseball Reference of 0.0. He had been a replacement level player this season, even with the recent surge. It's interesting when you think about the Nats positionally moving forward beyond this season. So we've talked about like what could be coming this offseason, maybe the acquisition of a big bat, certainly maybe the acquisition of a significant starting pitcher. But like if you go position by position on the diamond, there aren't like that many obvious open spots moving forward. Catcher, I guess you could say, is to be determined, but third base we know is Brady Houses. By the way, House, 2-homer game on Thursday evening. Shortstop we know is C.J. Abrams. Second base at this point, you gotta think is Luis Garcia Jr.'s, right? First base is open, okay, but outfield, we know Dylan Cruz, we know James Wood. Jacob Young is having this very good defensive season and a very good season in terms of base running. You do have other outfield prospects. We'll see what, becomes of Robert Hassel III and Elijah Green. But like, if you're talking about, well, the Nats need to get a big bat this coming offseason, you are kind of limited, aren't you, to like a DH first base type, maybe, I guess, a corner outfielder, but that would seem to be about it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's why they have to get that one right. Whatever move they make there, it's got to be the right guy. They cannot afford a miss on that because there aren't other spots to address. Now, I suppose in theory, you could say they need two bats, a first baseman and a DH, or somebody with enough versatility that you can kind of rotate around that position. Maybe it's another outfielder, and now you can have James Wood DH some days and Dylan Cruz DH some days and a first baseman DH some days and kind of move them all around. Maybe that's the direction they go. But I don't see anywhere else where there being a move unless they just decide that Brady House is not ready on opening day. Maybe they go get a short-term third baseman. They tried that this year. It didn't work out at all with Nick Senzel. They've tried Lipscomb. He has not hit. Maybe Jose Tena, maybe Andres Chaparro figures into this somehow as a corner infielder. But pretty much every other spot on the field, I think you're already penciling him in for opening day next season. Now, that could be a good thing if James Wood is what he's supposed to be and Dylan Cruz is what he's supposed to be and Brady House is what he's supposed to be. That may solve all these woes. Those are three big-time bats, potentially, that completely change the complexion of your lineup. But it's why I do believe, I kept saying this season is about identifying what you do have and what you don't have. And right now, they do not have a first baseman, power-hitting first baseman. They absolutely have to go get that. You could say, based on performance, they don't have a catcher, but they've got a catcher who's locked up for many years to come. So it's going to be tough to try to supersede that. As we've discussed, maybe you look at a veteran to share the job with him in some way. I don't think they go out and get a number one catcher to replace him. So you better go find yourself a really good hitting first baseman, preferably a good fielding one as well. And you better get that one right because I don't think there's anywhere else that you're going to see a significant upgrade, at least from the outside. Internally, there could be some big upgrades. That's the hope.
And to your point about Brady House and whether he begins next season at the major league level, I do think this is a significant thing to keep in mind. If House begins next season at the major league level, and so does Dylan Cruz, and next season is James Wood's first season of true service time, you're talking about Wood, Cruz, and House all being on the same service time timeline. And that's not ideal. Now, I don't know how much Mike Rizzo is going to care about that. Maybe Mike says to himself, look, in 6 years, I'm going to be retired. So what do I care, right? But like organizationally, you do ideally want to stagger something like this. And you already are steamrolling toward having Wood and Cruz on the same service time timeline. If you have Wood, Cruz, and House on the same service time timeline, that is dangerous. Now, look, you could always sign a guy to an extension that eats up arbitration years and free agency years, right? Teams do that. I know the Nats haven't done that often anyway. But yeah, I do wonder to what degree that might be playing into their thinking about what to do, especially with House. I mean, Cruz would seem like a given to begin next season at the major league level. House, I feel like you could go either way with, but if he's tearing it up now at AAA, you're going to hold him down multiple weeks into next season just for service time purposes. So I'd love to know what Mike Rizzo is truly thinking about this.
Yeah, House may force that issue because it's going to be hard to hold him back if he, does this. He's already been at AAA here for a little bit. Cruz, I don't see a scenario in which they could wait long enough to hold him back where he's not even debuting until next May. That would be very fishy, I would say, based on his performance and reputation and everything else. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I'm real curious to see how they handle third base the rest of this season. Even if House does well, there is an argument to say, hey, he's still really young. Let's let him finish out the year at AAA. But if he comes to spring training, he's gangbusters. Are you going to hold him back for another month just for the reason you outlined? Or are you saying, hey, it's go time. Let's win. Let's put them all out there and see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to Cruz and when he might be called up to the majors this season, there is something to be thinking about, and that is this PPI pick that the Nats could potentially get for Cruz. So what you want to do if you're the Nats, and this is strategic, but I think it makes total sense, you want him to be eligible for Rookie of the Year for next season. And you will maintain that eligibility if you hold off on calling him up to the majors this season for another few weeks. I think the date is August 20th. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's around then. So we're like a few weeks away from that. If you do that, he still maintains rookie status for next season, which means he's eligible for Rookie of the Year for next season, which means if he gets that, the Nats could get one of those PPI picks. The PPI thing we've talked about, it's very complex, but just to kind of bottom line it, that right now is potentially why Dylan Cruz still has not been called up to the majors.
My understanding is actually only a couple more days. It's 45 days in the big leagues or 150 at bats. You lose your rookie status. So I think like Saturday or Sunday coming up here is 45 days to the end of the season. So if they hold off on that and he doesn't take 150 at bats, which if he's playing every day, he could get there. So you may want to give yourself a little extra cushion there and not take that chance. Then they should be good to keep the rookie eligibility into next year. But I don't think they have to wait too much longer on that. I think there's an interesting question here coming up. As we know, they like to do these things at home, not on the road. Do you push it a little bit and say next week, 3-game series with the Rockies at home might be a good time to get his feet wet? Or do you say we're going to wait one more week and the following homestand against the Yankees and the Cubs with Juan Soto in the building as a member of the Yankees versus James Wood and Dylan Cruz making his major league debut? That would be appointment viewing if it comes to that, but I don't know that that's necessarily how they're approaching this right now.
The day is coming, that is for sure. It's in a few days at most, and that is exciting that Dylan Cruz, in theory anyway, is on his way to the majors. We shall see. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by Table to Mat, which you can count on for all of your nutrition and personal training needs. Table to Mat offers virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. You can email Table to Mat directly through the website tabletomat.com. You can call Table to Mat 240-388-2206. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com. Game 2 for the Nats at the Phillies Friday evening at 6:40. Patrick Corbin will be the Nats starting pitcher. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the show natschatpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on our website, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
Braddock pauses and pitches. Swing and a high drive in a deep left field. Rosario moves back. He's on the track. He's to the fence. It's gone. House homers. 2-0 Red Wings.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.